Welcome to Birken Forest Monastery's live stream. I'm Ajahn Sona. Feel free to post a question in the question bar if you want to participate. We'll try to get to it. In the meantime, Pia, let's start with the first question.
Ajahn, our first question today from the live stream is from Haley in Los Angeles, California, United States. Can meditation also help cure depression? I heard that depression changes brain function. Thank you.
Meditation can change brain function. Depression changes brain function. Whatever you tend to do repetitively, like if you have depressive thoughts and attitudes, you will get good at it. And so you'll get good at being depressed. And if you practice the opposite of prevention and interruption and replacement and the development of uplifting types of thoughts and emotions, you'll get good at that. So yes, you can change things. Many, many people have changed their emotional structure by changing their view. So when we say meditation, yes, you can start with simple, meditation is basically exercises for the mind. But it also helps to change your view of reality. And the Buddha has great advice for how to look at the world. So most people are experiencing negative emotions because they disapprove of the world, the political situations, the relationship situations, the weather, whatever. They're arguing with the universe, in other words. You're arguing with reality because there's a lot of tragedy in reality, so you're arguing with this. And of course, the universe always wins, has infinite amounts of time and opportunity to produce suffering, pain, loss, unsatisfactory situations. So if you have a mindset where you're waiting for the universe to give you good news and before you feel better, then that's the wrong mindset. So basically, this is a kind of philosophy. It's a high philosophy, and it was also a characteristic of some of the Greek philosophers. They said, you must transcend the experiences of reality. You must detach yourself from the ups and downs, the praise and blame, the success and failure, the tragedies and comedies of the world, if you're ever going to be sustainably happy and well. So first of all, it's a philosophy, and secondly, then you have to rehearse it again and again and again and again. And that rehearsal is a form of mindfulness and effort, and you will get results from that. Millions of people have reported a change in their emotional structure when they take up these practices. It's not just a little exercise, although the mental exercises are very important to it. So that's the sort of the therapeutic strategies, but also a change of view about nature of reality and what you should be doing with your mind and your feelings. And it's quite counter to the normal discourse in the world. People are always trying to bring you into their sense of tragedy. So they say, oh, isn't that terrible what happened? Oh, you must be so sad. You must be so upset about that. You must be, we are, I am, you are. And, and you can't be, every good person must be feeling the tragedy, and all this kind of attempt to insist about how you should feel. But very wise people don't feel that way. They don't participate in that. And it's not that they're cold and aloof. They just realize that they have some choices about how you feel. in the midst of this universe, which is quite out of your control. So this is a restructuring of your whole attitude and exercises which you do repetitively to get you out of that depression. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Next question from the live stream is from Mudita in Alberta, Canada. Dear Ajahn, I'm on a path of the unknown with just my cat spirit, a few clothes, and my car. However, I have no fears, just curiosity of what will be. Is this wise, or please advise?
Yes, it's best to go without fear. A lot of people have fear and anxiety, and they feel that they must have it because the situation is difficult. It's uncertain. They're between jobs, or they're a new stage in life. They're retired, or they're facing something, a relationship shift or something like that. And they feel like they must be anxious and fearful in order to deal with this. But that's the wrong emotion. It's basically fear and anxiety distort your thinking. And when things are difficult, you can't afford anxiety and fear. The worse it gets, the less you can afford fear and anxiety. And so, and even in good times, of course, why have fear and anxiety in good times? And why have it in bad times? These are emotions that they do motivate you, but they burn your little engines out. So you can't afford those kind of things. So the fact that you're walking at this stage of life into the unknown future with curiosity is the correct attitude. So good on you. And that is the right attitude. And abandon anxiety and fear, because those will make things worse and will misinform you about how you should think and act in the world. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Next question is from Roger in Chippenham, Wiltshire, England. Dear Ajahn Sona, thank you for teaching us. I live in southwest England, where there is a lot of New Age spirituality. Things like druids, a goddess temple, crystals, and tarot readings. I've read that the Buddha described practices like fortune-telling as, quote, low arts. Is this New Age spirituality compatible with Buddhism, or is it a modern form of the low arts?
Yeah, it's not a modern form. It's an ancient form of low arts. Well, the Buddha referred to these things as the literal translation would be animal knowledge, but it really means knowledge which goes horizontal. So animals walk on all fours, humans walk upright. So there are certain types of knowledges that don't go up, they just go sideways, they go horizontal. However, let me just say that why is there a renaissance of old ways of being, the idea of druids and witches and nature mysticism and all kinds of things like this? Why is that happening? Why is the New Age happening? The New Age, by the way, is a bit middle-aged now. So it's happening because in the 18th and 19th century, this new thing called science, technology came along, swept the world. And it disenchanted the world. They say it removed the, demons and angels from the world, kind of thing. Now, humans have a whole emotional structure which is very, it's based on how we relate to each other. We relate to each other. The human world is an emotional, a feeling world. It's also a poetic world. It's a creative world. It's an artistic world. It's a musical world. And that's how humans feel well. When you insist that the world is a bunch of molecules and space, or atoms in space, and nothing else, one part of your mind, maybe the left hemisphere of your brain, can understand that, but you're not living in a complete way. Something huge and human is missing. So humans like to have a warm and kindly relationship to the world around them. It's not atoms in space. You can't. How do you feel about atoms in space? I mean, it's for a computer or something like that. It's a machine way of looking at things. So people finally get tired of that, and they are missing something. They want to increase the warmth and mystery and beauty of life. So they take refuge in music and art and poetry and social activities and what is human justice. They also enjoy the company of the animals. They have pets and so forth. And this, because the relationship to pets is not intellectual. It's purely humane and social. Kindness and of course the animals are very good at this. They have no idea that the universe is full of atoms in space. They just like you in an unqualified way. So that's the human realm. So the fact that we are attempting to re-enchant the world through these ways is understandable. Buddhism doesn't dismiss these things. These realities are part of the long tradition of human nature. It just says that it's not enough. So you need this very high vision of things, which is not just a dried out scientific view of things. It has a very deep moral content to it as well. So humans can't live satisfactorily without a commitment to a moral a view of life, a virtue. We would say virtue. Sila is the Pali word. And sila is this very profound relationship to other beings. You recognize them as very similar to yourself. Other conscious beings are sensitive to pain, and they fear death and so forth, and they appreciate food, things like this. So you re-engage with humanity and the animal world, and perhaps these other realms which you maybe can't see, but perhaps you feel, in an ethical way, in a kindly way. And this is important. And the societies that we see who are experiencing sort of a pathology of being. So there's a lot of mental illness, a lot of depression, a lot of despair. All of these things are symptoms that the general attitudes, the worldview of these societies is not adequate for humans. So we engage with the wisdom of the Buddha in these things so that we have a transcendent view, but we're not dismissing the mystical, the poetic, the etc., the warm relationship, the warm-hearted relationship to other beings. At the same time, we need to keep our head, our emotional structure in the higher emotional structure very clear and lucid and steady and free. So this is the balance between these two things. Usually these other kind of older types of mentalities, Druid stuff and everything, does not have the high philosophy as well. So that's the problem. They're missing something. So they're regaining something that modern society doesn't have, but they're also not complete. So the Buddhism is a very large view of things. by the way, there's a very interesting simile. The Buddha said, you see all of the footprints of different animals in the forest, the deer and the bear and the wolf and all kinds of footprints. But the elephant has the largest footprint, and all other animals fit inside the footprint of the elephant. And so the Buddha's teaching, the Dhamma, is an elephant's footprint. All of these things fit inside. They're not as large. They're parts and aspects of it. They all can fit inside. So it's a large teaching. So I wouldn't tell people to abandon their search to re-enchant the world, but I would say that go for a very high and well-tested vision of it through the Dhamma, the Buddha's teachings. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Next question from the live stream is from Mr. H in Bristol, UK. Daily, I use awareness to check in on my body. I find that there is a lot of tension present, especially in the tummy area. What practice can I use to reduce or remove this tension?
One practice for tension in the body, etc., is usually to increase the tension, like to make it dramatic and exaggerated, and then release it very consciously. So you tense up the stomach and then release it. Tense it up, hold that tension, and then release it, so that your mind learns and it becomes aware of the creeping tension. And then it starts to learn to not gradually increase that tension. So what's happening, this happens with people's shoulders as well, and their back. They don't realize it, but they're more or less in a kind of a conflict with reality around them. They're pressed for time. They're in a hurry. There's demands that they have to fulfill that they don't want to, and their shoulders slowly creep up, and tension is experienced in the body. The body is kind of a external report about the mind. So every now and then we have to just consciously say, look, not just our body, not just relaxing our stomach, we have to relax our mind. Say, I need to let go of the kind of feeling of anxious hurrying, the rush, the anxious hurrying that I am almost constantly in. Many people don't realize that there is an alternative to that. And they may naively think that somehow you would be lazy or not get things done. But no, it's not that way. Very high levels of performance can be achieved with a relaxed and happy state of mind. You don't have tension and distress does not get good results. More or less relaxed and happy kind of attitudes can get very good results. You don't just be lazy or negligent. You may improve your ability to handle your life and the world around you. So it's really about changing your attitude. Your stomach is just registering your attitude, So there's little symptomatic relief, tense it up and then relax it, tense it up, relax it. But at the deeper level, you have to say, well, why is my stomach clenching? Am I in a fight with the world? People are walking out the door in the morning as if they're ready for a fight. Say that I'm not in a fight with the world. I'm changing my attitude to be very friendly and relaxed with the world. And the right ideas will come to me when I need them. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the next question.
Next question is from the live stream from Chloe. Dear Ajahn, relationships are very difficult. My heart aches for the person I loved, and it's hard every time we part ways. How can I control my heart?
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things. That's humans. The strongest stimulus for humans is another human, And romance is one of the strongest. It's famous in history, all of the plays, Romeo and Juliet. And every good tragedy is usually got a love story in it. It's always bound for tragedy as well. By the way, if everything worked out and you stayed together, still one of you has to die first. It's very rare that you die together, except when you jump off a cliff together holding hands. That's not satisfactory either, by the way. Don't try that at home. There is no way in this impermanent and uncertain world, you cannot rely on simple romantic relationship. It is destined for a heartache. And so you need to have a larger view of life, a higher view of life that functions in the midst of these relationships at all times. We need to recall that all of the things that other people that make us happy in certain ways, they are also subject to change and impermanence. So this is one of the 5 reflections to be repeated a number of times per day. So this is the 4th reflection that Buddha gives, especially for lay people, monastics as well. All that I have, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. So everything that you have, all those family relationships, those children that you have, those brothers and sisters that you have, your parents, your cousins, your relatives, your loves, your romantic loves, your friends, they will all be separated from you. You must be in tune with that reality. You must lose it. You will lose them. Do you have a philosophy that keeps you well in the midst of this inevitable loss that must happen? So this is, you need to work on your higher philosophy. You can't stay in that level of the game. So that's what the Buddha is saying. You're destined, humans are destined for suffering if they don't get a higher view of things, because this is what happens. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Next question from the live stream is from Moria. In Buddhism, is the matter of rebirth and karma taken on faith in the same sense that afterlife is taken on faith in other religions?
It can be. Many people raised in Buddhist cultures take it on faith. They presume it's the case. In the West, it's usually different. Christianity has been the dominant paradigm in the last 1,800 years. And in Christianity, it's kind of a weird thing that you start from nothing. You appear out of nothing, and then you last forever. So both of those things are foreign to Buddhist thinking. You don't just appear. You're not just born out of nothing. There are previous a stream of cause and effect, a previous stream of being, which at death continues, and it's not the identical being that's traveling through this life or previous lives. It's a flow of events, a continuous stream of ever-changing aspects of personality and so forth, which is flowing, and it doesn't pop out of nothing. And so that's the Buddhist view. So the Christian view, you will hardly even ever have the question in Christian ideas about like what comes before birth. They're preoccupied with what comes after death, but not what comes before birth. So Buddhism typically is not all that preoccupied with the afterlife. You'll see in Christianity is very, and especially in modern times, this whole endless debates about the afterlife. Is there an afterlife and what happens and so forth. Buddhism isn't really preoccupied with that because this is the afterlife. This is this one here. This is the afterlife. It's the one after the last one. I know all about the afterlife. I'm sitting here talking to you. We're in the afterlife talking to each other. And this is the one after the one we just had, like whatever it was. So this is a different way of thinking about it. By the way, so one of the problems with the Christian view of things is that when people speculate on the afterlife, it's always speculation. Is there an afterlife? How would you know about it? So then people have near-death experiences. So they die, they go to heaven, and then they're sent back, and they awaken again and say, I saw the after. I saw heaven. I met God. This and that. So that's the only thing they can talk about because they don't have a previous life. But in Buddhism, you can confirm the afterlife by memory. So you can remember, it's possible to remember a previous life. So some people have very clear and graphic memories of previous lives. So it's not just faith or trust, it's literal, very precise memories which actually can be confirmed. Like of course, some of these cases have been collected. There's a number of collections, especially in countries that have a belief in rebirth. They take an interest. Sometimes children, especially, occasionally remember their previous lives, and then they're asked, well, what was your parents' name and where did you live and so forth, and then they go and find out. They confirm that. There's a collection of about 2,500 cases, which is collected and kept at the University of Virginia in the psychology department. Many of these cases were collected by Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist who was sponsored for 40 years to investigate these things around the world. And he went all over the place. So in order to scientifically investigate this, so you can have some confirmation about this, it really is important to find children who remember their previous life, because the previous life is only, a few years away. And it has to be a previous human life. So it's no good if they remember being an angel or they remember being a dog or something like that. You can't verify that. So they have looking for cases where a child starts spontaneously insisting that they're from a previous life. And then you have to track these things down, and then you go and interview them. And then you need to get concrete information from them, like, how did you die? Where did you live? What was your address? What were the names of the people around you? What did you do for a living? Were you married, etc.? Did you have kids, and so forth? So these cases were collected by even Ian Stevenson. There's also a number of cases collected in Japan and other places as well by other interested people. And of course, there's spontaneous cases in the West as well. These are not all from Buddhist cultures. The Indians of the west coast of Canada, up into Alaska as well, the Tlingit Indians in Alaska, all the way down to the north coast of Vancouver Island, also have a belief structure of reincarnation, and they have people who recall having previous lives in their various tribes, etc. And these are collected as well. So it's quite an interesting area, especially for the Western mind. If you're not being exposed to this, you will have a natural sense of skepticism about this. But it explains a lot. let's say that it explains a lot about your preferences in this life. Like, why are you fascinated by cars or art or certain types of music or certain instruments or certain types of activities? Why do you feel drawn to them? Why do you, when you encounter other people, sometimes you have an instant like or dislike of them? Sometimes what we would call love at first sight happens. The Buddha says that this is not uncommon to meet people that you've known in a previous life. He says you can hardly step out the door without that happening. It's a very common experience to meet people who you've known in a previous life. So if you look at it in that context, it explains a lot about your sense of friendship and your continuation with people. And sometimes, of course, the opposite of just kind of strange enemies that seem to be coming from some previous life, you know. Cultures, of course, they are long-lived, and they have both friendships and enemies that are thousands of years old. You'll see these wars that are going on in these days the history is like the culture has a 2,000-year feud with another culture, you know. So, it's confirmable by some people. Other people will have to take it on faith. But all I would say is encourage you to stay open-minded about the matter and to investigate it. And you might find out that there's a lot of very convincing rational evidence for the case of rebirth. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next question.
Next question is from Upasika Chris in Lenexa, Kansas, United States. Greetings, Venerable Ajahn Sona. My question is about free will. Would it be correct to understand that achieving a state of equanimity via the meditative factors with right effort is ultimately the abandonment of one's free will in order to remain in such a state of equanimity? I'm a little perplexed because it requires free will to achieve this in the first place. Am I overthinking this or misguided in this observation?
Yeah, the famous philosophical question of free will or not. The Buddha doesn't really talk about free will. He talks about right effort, and that you can make right effort. And when you do make the right effort, it changes you in a positive way. So the Buddha is very strong on the idea that the mind is a causal process, is not just a random. So when we say free will, what do we mean? Free, meaning is it not influenced by anything in the past? Is it free from causes? Does your mind move without cause? Without any reference to past causes? That would be a very unsatisfactory situation. Your mind would be just arbitrarily changing and without any apparent system to it. So I don't think that's what the Buddha is talking about. He's talking about that the mind has laws and principles to it. It works in a certain way. So what we would call, what people in modern times are calling psychology, the study of the psyche, and what are the structures and laws of the mind? Is the mind lawful? Does it have causes in it? And what if we introduce this stimulant to it? What will its predictable reaction be? So it's a good thing that we are not really arbitrarily free, but we are conditioned. But we're not rigidly determined. So you can see again and again in life, people change in the direction which they set out to accomplish. it's the difference between people just getting on a raft in the ocean and just being pushed by currents and wind versus learning how to sail using a tiller and a sail. So there are still currents and winds, but you can direct where the raft is going to some degree, depending, of course, whether there is wind. So in the old days of sailboats, there was this place called the Sargasso Sea where sometimes there would be no wind. And you would sit there in a sailboat. You can't go anywhere without the wind. And so, yes, you need wind and currents, but also the more skilled you are at setting sails and tillers and reading charts and stuff like that, the more you can go to the goal which you have chosen. So it's more a matter of skilled sailing, knowing the techniques to get from point A to point B is what we're talking about with this. So the whole discussion around free will or not is can be dismissed. I don't think you would want when we understand free will, we must say that notion of freedom is that it's free from causality, which would be not a very good thing. You wouldn't want to be just sheer chance, making decisions arbitrarily out of sheer chance. You really want to be in a lawful system called the mind. And by the way, the mind is not personal, so you don't have a mind. The mind is just there. It's the mind. It's not your mind. And the mind has principles by which it works. And to the degree that you can understand this, you will enhance your life. You will reduce your suffering and increase your well-being. Yeah.
Next question are from the live stream. There are two about the Sati panas, so I will combine them. The first is from Upasika Bodhipala in Revelstoke, BC, Canada, and the second is from Peter in Florida, United States. How does one place thinking within the framework of the four Satipatthanas? And in the Satipatthana Sutta, when the Buddha says to know the five condas, what is it that knows them? Is it the condas themselves?
Thinking is Chitta Nupassana, the third foundation of the four foundations of mindfulness. And that is just a process of knowing whether one is angry or not, greedy or not, deluded or not, expansive or contracted, etc. This is awareness of the mind. Discursive activity is called vitaka and vichara. Vitaka. Taka is kind of tapping on a topic, and so the mind, and there are a very sophisticated set of categorizations of the mind in what we call the Abhidhamma, and which we would call thinking. But thinking can't be really separated from consciousness. So the human is divided into 5 parts in general for the Buddha. The body, and then 4 parts of what we would call mind. Feelings, that is sensations, feelings. Perceptions, volitions, and consciousness. And so it's the feelings, perceptions, consciousness, and volitions which thinking would fall into. And you can't really isolate thought from consciousness, and you can't isolate it from perception either. Discursive thinking activity, though, can cease, and you can remain alive, conscious, and with feeling as well. So they go through all of the possible configurations and permutations of what goes on in the mind, at the mind and feelings. So yeah, it's very well articulated. This is a practical teaching. This is not just an interesting account of the nature of the mind. This is like, we all know what thinking is. We dwell on a series of thoughts. And we know that what the Buddha is interested in is what is unsatisfactory thinking, what is wrong thinking, or thinking which is accompanied by unsatisfactory results. What is satisfactory thinking? Which one goes in the right way? So he says, you know what thinking is. Now, let's see if we can change the way you think. And we'll see what the accompanying emotions are to that. When you think in this way, it is a better experience. So, yeah. Does that answer the two questions sort of thing?
The second question had to do with how when the Buddha says to know the five condas, what is it that knows them? Is it the condas themselves?
The condas themselves. So the mind is so quick that it plays tennis with itself. So it hits the ball on this side and is fast enough to go to the other side of the net and hit it back. So when you are observing your own mind, it's the mind that is playing both of those roles. The mind, and it seems to you that it's two things, but it's actually one thing very quickly going back and forth between these states, the observer and the observed. It's ricocheting back and forth very, very fast. And it seems like that there's two of you in there, but it's actually one going back and forth. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Leah in Kamloops, BC, Canada. How to find freedom, freeing the mind from work-related PTSD?
Oh, yes. Well, post-traumatic stress disorder is a very common experience in life. People encounter stress and trauma, and it replays itself. It embeds itself in the mind, and so this is very important. That meditation and so forth is one of the ways out. Changing your view of reality also. So systematic. First of all, the first one is just pure serenity meditation, not trying to analyze things. Quite often, therapy for PTSD, for traumatic stuff, is about analyzing and replaying the situation in a safe environment. I think the Buddhist approach would be, first of all, to find your way to serenity. You need a very calm and safe environment, and just the healing power of pure serenity. The more you spend time in that sense of serenity, the less power these negative experiences have. They diminish when they're not reused. Like the circuit of the trauma is not being replayed again and again, so it weakens. And you stay in positive areas. You don't go back and poke the painful area. You just stop doing that. And in the meantime, it reduces in its potency, and the alternative, the positive stuff, increases in its accessibility and strength. And so that's how we would do it. And then in that, once one is in a serene state of mind, one reflects on reality without inducing all kinds of panicky emotions. And pretty soon you can hold that insight into nature of reality without negative emotions. And then now what you've done is drown-proof yourself against future trauma. So Buddhism is very interested in pre-traumatic stress relief rather than post-traumatic stress distress. We're interested in making you resilient so you aren't traumatized again. Because if somebody gets over a specific trauma because by psychotherapy or something, are they still just vulnerable to the next trauma? So Buddhism is interested in both relieving the past traumas, but also strengthening you, making you more resilient so you're not traumatized again. Yeah. So that any worthwhile philosophy is one that is preventative for future trauma as well as relieving past trauma. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Elia in Italy. Dear Ajahn Sona, how can someone deal with forgetting parts of the teachings? Should I deal with it by simple repetition, or is there another way?
Well, in traditional Buddhism, there's a lot of repetition. Monks didn't have access to writing at the beginning for the first 500 years, and it was strictly by rehearsing in memory. They would chant together, rehearse it together, and we still do it to this day. We chant these suttas and rehearse them again and again and again. If something's really valuable, it's no problem of just going over it and over it until it's part of you. And yeah, at first it's intellectual. You just get the idea. Then you explore the idea, you play with the idea, you make it part of your life, you make it relate to experience. And then eventually you really understand it, and then the idea becomes internalized and it has an effect. It becomes flesh and bones for you. So yeah, there's a lot of repetition, just like any other thing. If you want to become a good basketball player, guess how many repetitions it'll take you. You want to become a good musician? A lot of scales, a lot of repetition. So in all kinds of life, repetition is how you internalize and make it your own. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Moni. Dear Ajahn, thank you for your new book. I'm having fun with it. How can a lay practitioner assess if one is moving in the right direction on the path?
Whoa, right here. What comes before mindfulness? What's the subtitle? I should know this. Effective Effort, How to Garden Your Inner Life. Effective Effort, How to Garden Your Inner Life. You can get it on Amazon, and it's the last book I wrote, or the most recent book I wrote. And by the way, some of these people who are behind the cameras here helped with the editing of this. Very nice. Thank you very much, Metta and Pia. Yeah. And what else was it?
The question is, how can a lay practitioner assess if one is moving in the right direction on the path?
Oh, you really need to feel it. And it's totally not good enough if you don't feel it. If you have to keep asking, am I having fun yet? You're not having fun yet. It has to be very clear to you that you are making progress, that you have changed in a positive way. And if you're uncertain about that, you haven't changed in a positive way enough. So it should be quite apparent to you, and you should feel differently. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Krypton Air. Can there be pleasure without the body? If so, what is it that's pleasurable, as there is nothing to cling to?
Yeah, well, the body, there's bodily pleasure, and there's mental pleasure or psychological pleasure, as in emotional. You feel the emotions through the body sometimes. By the way, people who are quadriplegic or something like that, they may not have no feeling in the body below the neck, and yet they have positive emotions. So in that case, the mind is kind of disconnected from the body. So all that really matters is there's bodily pleasurable feelings, which are tactile, and then there's emotional pleasurable feelings, which occur in the mind and then in a secondary way in the body. So that's all you really need to know for practical matters. Yeah.
Next question from the live stream is from Biometadare in Pennsylvania. Dear Ajahn, my beloved cat companion was hit by a car and died on Thursday. How should I balance grieving with equanimity or other skillful qualities? What should I focus on and tell myself?
You're not going to have grieving and equanimity at the same time. You're either being grieving or you're equanimous. Like, the nature of equanimity is that you're not grieving. You got to say, well, it's the nature. Cats, you're going to go through, if you're a cat person, you're going to go through a dozen of them in your life. That's the nature of things. We have to say, yes, they're nice, soft, warm, affectionate tricksters, but they are cats, and all cats die, and they have a tendency to wander out in traffic as well. Like all beings, as I said before earlier in the talk, all that we have, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from us. We need to know that and be clear about that, and not be in grief about that, because we would always be in grief then, since everything we have is going to be separated from us. And the Buddha is saying, look, know that and transcend that. Don't live in the tragedy. Don't live in the tragedy. Learn how to be in the big picture of things, to see that stuff happens. You didn't design the universe. By the way, the Buddha did not praise the universe. He didn't think the universe was wise or kind or anything like that. It was just, it is what it is, and it's not very satisfactory, and it is intrinsically unsatisfactory. And the aspiration to exit the universe through nibbana is the conclusion. It's not satisfactory. If you stay in it, it's a tragedy, and it doesn't have a happy ending. It just, people die, things go away, you get sick, you get old. And do you have a view of life that keeps you well in the midst of this and gives you a transcendent view that allows you to aspire to the end of this suffering situation? Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to have one last question.
Ajahn, our final question today is from Upasika Gordon in Victoria, BC, Canada. Dear Ajahn, having attended the year-long Upasika study course through Birken, I am now a lay follower, or Upasika. Does this title granted by you through Birken transfer to other centers that bestow that title? Would my title of Upasika be recognized at any other Theravada center or vice versa?
It may be. Basically, it's something that you grant to yourself. Upasika really means that you have faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the three refuges. And that makes you, and only you can confirm that. We give you direction about how you would understand the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. But if you feel that you have a certain amount of faith or trust in that, that makes you the Anupasika. And it's not up to anybody else to tell you whether you are or not. You're the only one that has a sense of commitment and confidence in it. So that allows you to regard yourself as an Upasika, one who comes close to the monks, but also primarily one has confidence in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. But if you don't know what those are, then how can you have confidence in them? So the Upasika course is to sort of give you information about what is the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Yeah. Okay, well, that is it for today, and hopefully we'll see you next week as well.